Get your X's and O's ready, because the Gossip Girl reboot is officially coming in 2021. The reboot officially wrapped up the production around the holidays 2020, but with the upcoming reboot hitting us soon, we're curious about the OG's cast reactions. What did they say about their characters? And how did our Queen Bee react to this reboot? Keep watching to find out. We all remember Gossip Girl, such an iconic piece of pop culture, with Blair and Serena as blueprints for so many girls years to come. At some point, we all wanted to be part of the gossip clique, and now, over a decade later, we're having Gossip Girl Renaissance. But before we go forward, we need to go all the way back. The show ran for 6 seasons, for 5 whole years, which nowadays is a lot for a TV show. Just think about all the hits that don't even get a second chance. The show portrayed incredibly rich Upper East Siders who were not afraid to drop a coin on something and party their life away. It made us all fall in love with the characters, while vicariously living through their beefs and dramatic relationships. Honestly, when we say you had to be there to understand the Gossip Girl craze, we mean it. Blake and Leighton were treated like icons in every field possible, influencing fashion and hairstyles for all the years the show was running. And in the middle of all this were our 2 beloved BFFs, Serena Vanderwoodsen and the Queen Bee herself, Blair Waldorf. We loved their friendship, and even though they were incredibly petty at times, they were each other's ride or die at the end of the day. The 2 were portrayed by none other than Blake Lively and Leighton Meester. And we are already wondering, will the reboot have an iconic bestie duo? And will they rival the popularity of Serena and Blair? And what does the OG cast really have to say about the reboot? And while on the screen the cast seemed to be all besties, things on set were rather messy and toxic. If you didn't know this by now, we're sorry to break it to you, but Blake and Leighton were never friends. These 2 were always in each other's hair as soon as the director yelled out cut. The duo just avoided each other. Not only were they barely friends with each other, Leighton was also going through a lot while shooting the TV show. On the screen, she was just the Princess of Manhattan, but off screen, she was struggling. She and her mother were actually suing each other over money. Her mom didn't stop there. She also blamed Leighton as the reason they had to move to Los Angeles, just because Leighton wanted to be an actress. In 2012, Leighton won the case. Looking back, this could be one of the many reasons why her Gossip Girl memories might not be as dreamy as one would expect. Another thing that made the situation behind the scenes even more awkward was the dating culture that was going on with the cast. Everyone was dating their co-star in real life as well, so it's safe to say the lines were more than blurred. Stepping back from it, I can see it, but I remember there was one point where we were just afraid of how our personal lives overlapping our work life could be perceived by our bosses. But then we were like, oh no, that's exactly what they want. They wanted us all to date. They wanted us all to wear the same clothes that we're wearing on the show. They wanted that because then it fed their whole narrative. People could buy into this world. Of course, we were all crazy about the ships, but it seemed like it kind of screwed the relationships between the star cast. Just think about it. Who would like to return on set with your ex? Chase Crawford commented on this in negative light, not only the tangled relationship they all had on set, but on the show and roles as well. I think with any TV show, after 3 or 4 years, it's like, how many ways can you skin a cat? I mean, we'd all hooked up with each other by the end. I think they did a really good job with maintaining its popularity within that formula, but as an actor, you always want to be doing different things. And he was not the only actor on the set who was unhappy. Blake Lively, who played the it girl Serena Vanderwoodsen, said this about her character. People loved it, but it always felt a little personally compromising. You want to be putting a better message out there. Overall, she never seemed happy to play the role of Serena, since people started connecting them together on a whole other level. But the real fans know Blake Lively is the biggest sweetheart in real life. Penn Badgley also couldn't help himself but spill some shady words towards the show and the character he played all those years while promoting a completely different movie. To be proud of something is a really nice feeling, and it's a new feeling, and it's something that I want to keep going with. I can walk a little taller, feeling that I don't have to be constantly apologizing for the work that I've done in the past. Leighton said this about the show in an interview. Everyone has their own journey, especially in their early 20s when they're just figuring out who they are. Because of the success of that show, I was put in a place where that journey was sped up. I had to figure it out quickly, and with not a completely developed mind to discern between what's real and what's not, who I can trust and who I can't. After the show, the cast jumped on great opportunities. Leighton Meester would go on to star in The Roommate and Monte Carlo, and was highly praised for her acting performances. Blake Lively actually did the exact opposite. She then took an acting break to focus on family. Ed Chadwick went on to star in a remake of Romeo and Juliet. Penn Badgley appeared alongside Emma Stone in Easy A, and nowadays we can see him as the charming creep in Netflix's You. So can we imagine them now in the reboot all these years later? The reboot isn't a straight continuation of the events from where Gossip Girl left off, so be prepared to skip the whole 8 years to transport us right to 2020. Also, we shouldn't look at it like a sequel, but more like a standalone TV show from a different angle. The synopsis of the show says, 8 years after the original website went dark, a new generation of New York private school teens are introduced to the social surveillance of Gossip Girl. The prestige series will address just how much social media and the landscape of New York itself has changed in the intervening years. Well, we're up for a twist. The show creator explained further, there was something really interesting about this idea that we are all Gossip Girl now, in our own way. We are all purveyors of our own social media surveillance state, and how that's evolved, and how that has morphed and mutated, and telling that story through a new generation of Upper East Side high school kids felt like the right time. It makes sense that social media is much more included now. Who even actively visits blogs these days? Also, we left the text message alerts back in 2010. Sorry. The cast was a surprise to us. It's full of unknown names and rising stars. But after seeing the careers of the OG actors skyrocketed after The Gossip Girl, we believe this might happen to the new generation as well. For one thing, we're grateful. The cast is much more inclusive this time around. We'll be seeing Whitney Peak, Tavi Gevinson, who we might know from Scream Queens, Thomas Doherty, whose familiar pretty face we've seen in Descendants, Emily Allen Lind, who we might have noticed in Dr. Sleep. All of the new characters were described with a word, like ambition, influence, perspective, and freedom, so we know what kind of vibes they're going for. But what about the OG cast? Should we get ready to see them in the reboot as well? The showrunner, Schwartz, told this in an interview. We've reached out to all of them to let them know what was happening, and we'd love for them to be involved if they want to be involved, but certainly didn't want to make it contingent upon them being involved. They played these characters for 6 years, and if they felt like they were good with that, we want to respect that, but obviously it would be great to see them again. Well, one thing's for sure, Kristen Bell is making a grand return. Kristen Bell has always been and will always be the voice of Gossip Girl, and we cannot wait. Just by having her on board makes us 100% more excited. When Chase got asked about the reboot, he answered, I always say I'm open to it, but in reality, we're all a lot older, so what do you do there? Well, with the enthusiasm we got from the showrunner, we're sure he would make up some roles exclusively for the OG cast. Penn, even though he wasn't the biggest bestie with the role of Dan, always seems up for it. I've never been necessarily the greatest friend or fan of Dan Humphrey, which now I reconcile in this way. I'm like, I would love to contribute in a meaningful way to it. And I guess it would just depend on a lot of things. But what about our main it girl, Serena? We're sorry to announce that she confirmed she isn't involved in the production of the CW show. She says that any questions about the series have to be directed to the producers, since she's not taking part in the series in any way, shape, or form. This breaks our heart, as we would love to see her reprise the role, as in our eyes, she will always be Serena Vanderwoodson. And if there's one person we're hoping to see in the reboot, it's our OG Blair. Just a cameo would give the right spice to the reboot. But as for Leighton, all she said in an interview in 2019 was, no one's ever talked to me about it, except for in interviews, and I always say the same. I never say never, so I don't know. And the latest news came from her husband, Adam Brody, who confirmed they might not even watch the reboot. I highly doubt we'll watch it front to back. I don't think we're the audience, but I'm sure we'll dip our toes in. Well, that's awkward. And from Leighton herself, all we got was radio silence. Given how messy the shooting of the original was, we aren't that surprised that she'd like to leave that part of her life being. That was it. We can't wait to binge watch all the 10 episodes of the reboot as soon as they come out. We just hope the ending of the spin-off will be more clever. Sorry, we're still bitter about Dan being the Gossip Girl. Thanks for watching.